Welcome to the Deeper Thinking podcast. Today we embark on a journey through the evolving dimensions of freedom. From its Enlightenment roots to the modern digital landscape, we'll explore the contradictions that shape liberty's promise and its practice. We'll uncover the forces redefining freedom in the digital age. Join us as we explore the balance between innovation and justice, navigating a landscape where the ideals of liberty are continually tested and transformed. Freedom fascinates because it's messy. It promises universality but thrives on contradictions. The Enlightenment sparked revolutions, yet its ideals excluded the enslaved, colonized, and marginalized. Fast forward to today, and Meta's policy shifts lay bare the same tensions. Freedom of expression clashing with harm, inclusion sacrificed for profit. What grabs attention is how these patterns persist. Freedom's flaws aren't relics of the past, they're alive in every platform. The Enlightenment heralded an era of liberty, but it was never simple. Its thinkers championed freedom while entrenching exclusion. John Locke inspired revolutions, yet upheld slavery and colonialism. Rousseau envisioned collective governance, but demanded individuals yield personal autonomy to the general will. These ideals were lofty but flawed, building frameworks that celebrated some and silenced others. The contradictions linger, shaping how freedom is imagined and practiced today. The Industrial Revolution arrived with promises of progress and innovation, but freedom for capital often meant oppression for labor. Factories boomed, and workers were bound by dangerous conditions. This imbalance echoes loudly in the gig economy, where companies like Uber tout flexibility while workers navigate insecurity, lacking benefits or fair compensation. The historical tension between innovation and equity persists unresolved. Freedom as consumer choice flourished in the 20th century. Markets proclaimed empowerment while systemic barriers denied access. Redlining, wage gaps, and unequal education made freedom illusory for marginalized communities. Today, these legacies are visible in crushing student debt and predatory lending, disproportionately harming women and people of color. The ideal of choice masks profound inequities, revealing the flaws of unrestrained liberty. Freedom's history is a pattern of promises and exclusions. Revisiting its roots exposes a truth. Liberty's contradictions are not bugs to fix, but warnings to heed. Reimagining freedom begins by acknowledging its broken inheritance. Freedom is more than a slogan, it is a philosophy, shaped by competing visions of what it means to live autonomously. Libertarianism thrives on the idea of non-interference, championing the right to pursue individual goals. Yet in practice, unregulated markets often favor the powerful. Wealth concentrates, barriers solidify, and the promise of opportunity remains out of reach for many. Libertarian ideals excel at fostering innovation, but stumble when faced with structural inequities. Communitarianism offers an alternative, prioritizing collective welfare over individual gain. The ethos of freedom from poverty, illness, or exploitation is embedded in policies like universal healthcare and public education. These systems aim to protect the vulnerable and create shared security. But the cost of this vision can be heavy. Overreach risks eroding personal choice, replacing freedom with dependence on bureaucratic structures. The balance between community responsibility and individual agency is fragile, often tilting toward tension. Egalitarianism pursues fairness by advocating redistributive policies, leveling the playing field through progressive taxation and access to essential services. In this framework, freedom is not just a birthright, but an outcome of deliberate equity. Critics, however, argue that these measures can stifle economic growth, leaving societies grappling with how to foster both innovation and fairness. The tension between opportunity and equality remains unresolved, a reminder that no ideology fully captures the multifaceted nature of liberty. Freedom resists simple categorization. Each philosophy reveals a piece of the puzzle, but falls short of the whole. To truly rethink liberty, we must embrace an intersectional approach, weaving together diverse perspectives to address its contradictions. Meta's recent policy shifts expose the evolving tension between freedom of expression and the responsibility to protect vulnerable communities. The company's decision to loosen content moderation, particularly around politically and religiously framed speech, has drawn sharp criticism. Under its new guidelines, users are permitted to describe LGBTQ+ identities as mental illnesses, This move, justified by Meta as a defense of free discourse, has left LGBTQ+ employees and advocates reeling, raising questions about the balance between safeguarding rights and enabling harm. Meta has also disbanded its diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, citing shifting legal landscapes and internal priorities. Supplier diversity programs, inclusive hiring efforts, and dedicated DEI teams have been dismantled, signaling a retreat from proactive inclusivity. The rollback reflects a broader industry trend of scaling back DEI commitments, but has drawn intense scrutiny, with critics arguing that inclusivity must remain a core value in the digital age. These changes align with Meta's broader pivot toward lighter content moderation, including the termination of its third-party fact-checking program. In its place, the company has introduced Community Notes, a user-driven system reminiscent of Twitter's approach. This shift prioritizes community-based governance, but raises concerns about the proliferation of misinformation and hate speech. Meta frames these changes as part of its commitment to freedom and innovation, but the consequences for marginalized groups remain deeply unsettling. Freedom without safeguards is no freedom at all. As platforms like Meta recalibrate their policies, the burden of harm falls disproportionately on already vulnerable populations. The balance between expression and protection is delicate, yet crucial. Meta's recent policy shifts are not just decisions of the moment. They echo freedom's historical and philosophical contradictions. The company's decision to allow content describing LGBTQ+ identities as mental illnesses under the guise of political and religious expression recalls the Enlightenment's paradox. John Locke championed liberty, yet his framework excluded entire groups, rationalizing oppression under broader ideals. Similarly, Meta invokes free speech while enabling harm, suggesting that freedom for one can be the curtailment of another's dignity. By disbanding its diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, Meta walks a line that mirrors communitarianism's critiques. Policies intended to serve collective well-being, like inclusive hiring and supplier diversity, are dismissed as burdensome or unnecessary. This resonates with the historical retreat from labor protections during the Industrial Revolution, where freedom to innovate triumphed over equitable systems. In this retreat, we see the enduring tension between personal liberties and systemic obligations. Philosophically, Meta's embrace of lighter content moderation aligns with libertarian ideals, emphasizing minimal interference and user-driven governance. Its reliance on community notes for content checks mirrors the libertarian belief in self-regulation. Yet history has shown how unregulated systems deepen inequalities. Just as unbridled markets concentrate wealth, unmoderated platforms amplify harm, privileging dominant voices while silencing marginalized ones. Egalitarian frameworks might argue that Meta's policies undermine the balance of opportunity. By permitting harmful discourse and dismantling DEI programs, the company widens the chasm between freedom as an abstract right and freedom as a lived reality. Marginalized groups bear the burden of harm, while those in power navigate untouched by its consequences. Meta's changes are a stark reminder that freedom unmoored from equity is hollow. As with the Industrial Revolution, where innovation outpaced ethical accountability, Meta's vision of freedom risks deepening systemic divides. Its policies resurrect unresolved tensions in liberty's history, where idealism too often excludes justice. True freedom requires more than unfettered expression. It demands accountability, equity, and the courage to protect the vulnerable. Without these, liberty becomes yet another tool of exclusion. Thank you for listening to the Deeper Thinking podcast, an audio essay read by Holly, our digital narrator. Until next time.